Longhorn Nation, Sooner fans, welcome to episode 92 of the Bevo Podcast, the only podcast exclusively dedicated to covering the greatest rivalry in college football, the University of Texas and the University of Oklahoma. I'm here with my man, Kevin Miller. I am John Whitson. Kevin, your Texas Longhorns officially punched their ticket to the Big 12 championship game with a chance to play for a college football playoff spot when they kicked the living crap out of the Texas Tech Red Raiders. It wasn't even close. I did not see that coming. I thought y'all would win. I did not think you would beat them by 50 at DKR on Friday night.
Listen, man, this is what I've been hoping for all year from this team, and finally see it all come together. A complete four-quarter performance, dominating a team that we should dominate, especially after all that crap that Brett Yormark was talking, all the crap that Joey McGuire was talking, all the crap that their fans were talking. It was incredibly gratifying to beat them, not just beat them, but to beat them down by 50 points on their way out, or on our way out of the conference. Yeah, man, it felt great.
No, it's an impressive win. Well done. Oklahoma, with an impressive win of their own, 69-45 over TCU. Dylan Gabriel, 400 yards, 3 touchdowns, interception. Drake Stoops, another monster game, 12 receptions, 125 yards, and a touchdown. And Billy Bowman with just an amazing pick six. I hope this is not the last time we see him in a Sooner uniform. We have not heard officially, although that could come out at any time. I think we're all expecting news to drop from players that aren't going to be playing in the postseason, except for bowl games, who might drop and who might not. So we'll be on the lookout for that. Coming out of the OU game, a lot of concern about our defense. I was excited about our offense, so I wasn't necessarily thinking about the defense until the halfway through the Oklahoma State BYU game, when I thought, my goodness, there's a real possibility we play Texas again. And the way our defense was shaping up, I wasn't sure we could stop you guys.
Yeah, it was interesting because I guess you guys have kind of been like this all year. The competency is there, especially when you compare it to last season, right? You have the ability to play at times dominant defense. Like we said, even in this game, you had a time where you stopped them on, 3 straight possessions, 3 and out. They couldn't do anything. But then next thing you know, they're going right down the field in 3 or 4 plays. So you can see the development still there, still happening in the defense. Some guys a little bit out of position and stuff. And I know it drives Coach Venables crazy when that happens, but still a work in progress. Incredible improvement from last year, but just still a work in progress.
I really just wonder how much of it is something in the scheme that they're seeing, because it's like we've just been exploited. But we've got time to work on it now. Again, 69 points. Listen, Jeff Lebby was much maligned throughout the year. I still question the play calls he made at Kansas, the play calls he made at Oklahoma State. Those aren't going to go away. But to put a performance like this in potentially his last game as an Oklahoma offensive coordinator, Kevin, does Oklahoma miss Jeff Lebby if he indeed goes to Mississippi State?
Maybe you do. I mean, I thought he was outstanding. He's been good the majority of the season, right? He was great against Texas. And even in the Kansas and the Oklahoma State game, it was just a couple plays. Those plays just happened to be in the biggest moment of the game, right? Down the stretch against Kansas, and then, a couple of decisions in Stillwater, especially that 4th down. I don't think any OU fans, like you said, are going to forget that one anytime soon when you call that sprint out when it's 4th and 5. That was never going to work, right? But, man, it was a great performance. I mean, there were all sorts of things. Running game looked good. You're spreading them out. Different route combinations that we've seen.
Lots of deep shots. Deep shots, which I love.
Yeah, and TCU had absolutely no answer for it.
You got Jane Gibson and Nick Anderson. I mean, and even we saw Brennan Thompson make up. I mean, the speed on that guy, my God. So with those guys are all coming back. So that's exciting to know that those 3 guys are at least coming back. But it was game. Let's look around the league. Let's look around the country real quick, and then we'll get back to those games. But let's start up in Stillwater. This had the most impact for both Oklahoma and Texas. As you watched it on Saturday, you were trying to determine who you were going to play. As Oklahoma fan watched it, we were trying to determine, did we even have a chance? Going into the game, I said there's no chance that BYU beats Oklahoma State. And then they're up 24-6 at halftime.
Yeah,
Kevin,
they were dominating.
Oklahoma fan, we were buying our tickets to Arlington, dude. We were buying tickets to Arlington.
You should have. Yeah, I get you guys being fired up, right? I mean, Oklahoma State was not in that game at all. They couldn't do anything offensively. They're allowing BYU to go down the field on offense. Basically, just kind of what we saw with them against you guys the week before up in Provo, right? I think BYU has shown that they're actually a pretty quality team. We had Joe Young on, BYU fan a couple of weeks ago. And I remember he had said that it seemed like the team had quit on the season. And, man, they really tried to put it together the last couple of weeks. So give credit to them. They just couldn't hold on, man.
They couldn't hold on. They only get 3 points in the second half, coming with no time left on a very long field goal. I don't have it written down, but it was in those conditions,
40 plus.
In those conditions, rain, cold, wet, probably a little windy. It was a big time kick by a college kicker to get it into overtime. I got to tell you though, with Oklahoma State having Ollie Gordon, I didn't think BYU was going to win it in overtime. Gordon goes for 34 carries, 166 yards, 5 touchdowns. I do think 2 of those touchdowns came in overtime, so I'm not sure how that works on the stats, but still, dude, 5 touchdowns is 5 touchdowns. He is who you have to stop this upcoming week. Can Texas stop Ollie Gordon?
I think they can stop him just enough, right? I'm not saying he's going to have, 20 yards or anything like that. We just can't have him going crazy. I think it'd be kind of similar to what we saw against Texas Tech. I'm not talking about the score. I mean, the way that they were able to contain Taj Brooks. He still has some really good runs. He's a great running back. But, we just can't have him breaking out those 65-yard touchdowns that he's prone to get. The issue with him in Oklahoma State, period, I hope this is the game that Texas can get ahead and really take control of, because he's a guy that the more he carries the ball, the better he seems to get.
Yes.
Right? He got better as the game went on. He kind of wears you down.
He did the same thing at Houston. He did the same thing against Oklahoma. He was better in the second half, better in the fourth quarter, better on the last drive. He's a workhorse, man. Absolutely.
He is. Just the type you don't really see in college football anymore. Right? I think we used to have those guys, Cedric Benson at Texas, who would have 35 carries in the game. You just don't see that anymore. Usually it's 2 guys. You might have a guy with 20 to 25 max. But to see a guy who routinely gets 30-plus carries in college football is very rare. But when you got a guy like that, you just give it to him. You just keep giving it to him.
It was fascinating to watch Oklahoma Twitter during the game, because at halftime, they were in love with BYU. Like, in love with BYU. How much they love BYU. They're amazing. Cougar tails. Like, the whole thing. Like, this is so good. Da-da-da-da-da. By the end of the game, they were cussing BYU. They were so pissed at BYU for losing and not holding on. I was not mad at BYU. I'm mad at us for losing to Oklahoma State. I'm still a little mad at the Big 12 refs. Like, some of those, Oklahoma State got a pass interference call late in the game, and I'm like, well,
that must be nice, right?
That's appropriate.
I had the same thought. Yeah. Oh, so you mean pulling a receiver down in the end zone is actually PI?
Yeah. Oh, that makes sense.
I understand you guys feeling like that. What sucks about it, man, is this is what happens when you put your fate into the hands of others.
100%.
Same thing with Texas last year. We could have made the conference championship game last year, and we're relying on somebody else. Last week of the season just didn't happen.
This is not BYU's fault. This is Oklahoma's fault, and to some extent, the officiating on that game. But this is Oklahoma's fault. You can't count on a 5-6 team to knock out a team on the road. It was if it would have happened,
for everything. They're playing for everything.
BYU
was playing for a bowl appearance, right? But that's different, than playing for a conference title.
I could see BYU, because they're such a draw, be one of those 5-7 teams that fill a bowl out.
I agree. Yeah, I agree.
So anyway, that sealed the deal in the Big 12. It'll be Texas and Oklahoma State, which this podcast will have a ton of coverage on that as the week unfolds.
So let me ask you this real quick before we move on.
Yeah.
How does Sooner fan feel about that when you got your most hated rival and then your annoying little brother playing against each other? Like, how do you even root for anybody?
I called and made a tea time, regardless of the weather, for 11 a.m. on Saturday. So I don't
That
know.
makes sense.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I hate both of you so much. I think, and I'm being honest about this, because I host a podcast titled the Bevo Podcast, and I would like to continue to increase views. I'm probably rooting for Texas to win, which makes me throw up a little bit in the back of my mouth. But at the same time, I can't stand Oklahoma State. And if they go out on top in our last year of the conference, I don't even know what I would do. This team lost to South Alabama, Kevin, at home. Like, it's
And it
maddening
was
to
like
me that they're
33-6. Remember that. It wasn't even
it's
close.
so I'm probably going to get some crap. I'm not saying I'm rooting for Texas, but I'm rooting for Oklahoma State to lose. How about that? I want Oklahoma State to lose.
Gotcha.
Oklahoma fan, though, as a whole, seems very divided on this, and like, people want to tell you who you can and can't root for. I'm really not rooting for anybody except Oklahoma State to lose. And then secondly, I will probably not watch very much of the game. I just can't stand it. I can't stand it. It makes me sick.
Yeah, I
hate
can't
it.
imagine seeing OU and A&M play for something that matters. It would drive me nuts.
Yeah, it would drive you nuts. Yeah, it's terrible. All right. Listen, the rest of these games, what I'm about to run through, are the top 5-6 games in the country. Kevin, this was one of the best weeks this entire season. The college football landscape literally saved, in a lot of cases, the best for last.
Absolutely, man. That's why we love this. Why we
Oh,
love this sport so much. It's just something that the NFL, and I love the NFL, but the NFL can't have this. You can't have a weekend like this
no,
in professional football.
no, you
Only
can't do it.
college football delivers that type of excitement that we got yesterday. And
And
like you said, it wasn't just one game, it was all day.
it was all games. Real quick, hitting on Friday. This was not a great game, but it was important, especially to Texas. Oregon does beat Oregon State 31-7. Okay, so Oregon's made it to the Pac-12 championship, so they are in. They are going to play Washington, who beats Washington State 24-21 on a last-second field goal. Kevin, did you see the fourth down play from their own 29 with like a minute 20 to go?
I couldn't believe it. I mean, an end around on a 4th and 1 at your own 29-yard line. If that play doesn't work, they're running Kalen DeBoer out of town.
I don't know if it was a ballsy call or it was so ridiculous that it worked. Like, I can't figure it out, but it worked and it secured them a victory. Washington is like hanging on by a thread, and I'm not sure they can hang on against Oregon next week.
Neither can I, because Oregon just looks really good, man, on both sides of the ball. Washington has been a little bit up and down these last few weeks, and Oregon is going to be ready to go. They feel like they should not have lost that game. I still think their coach is the reason they lost, calling all those 4th down plays instead of just punting or taking a field goal.
Yeah.
But yeah, I feel like they're going to be motivated and ready to go. We need to see Washington at their best in order for them to beat Oregon. This team was I think we might have talked about this a few weeks ago. I'm getting 2002 Ohio State vibes with this Washington team.
Yeah.
Right? Remember that? They just close games, last-second field goals, crazy turnovers to clinch games. And they end up going all the way and beating Miami for the national championship. Now, I don't know if they can go all the way, but this is what this team was reminding me of. So I'm looking forward to that Pac-12 championship game Friday night.
Switching to the Pac-10 or the Big Ten, I'm sorry, in the game, which they kept calling it the greatest rivalry in college football. It's a nice rivalry, Kevin. It's not the greatest rivalry in college football.
No, it's the second best.
It's the second best, and they can be second best, but no, I don't buy this greatest rivalry. They play at home, dude. They get to play a home game. Like, come play in front of hostile fans every single year. But I digress. Michigan, Oklahoma State, 30-24. What did I say?
Oklahoma State.
Sorry, Michigan and Ohio State, 30-24. I don't like Ryan Day. I think he's kind of a jerk. I know that when I texted you this, you said, yeah, well, Jim Harbaugh's a jerk too. I think Ryan Day is a bigger jerk than Jim Harbaugh. So I was pulling for Michigan.
Okay.
And
I didn't have a rooting interest.
Yeah.
I just thought it was a fun game, right? Like, it wasn't the most exciting game I've seen all weekend, but the ending was good. It was a fun ending. Man, I don't know what to make of Ohio State here going forward, right? We're talking about the game. Again, Michigan, the more physical team, just a little bit better in the trenches overall. I thought it was a good effort by Ohio State. But in the end, I think Michigan's just a little bit too physical for them.
Did you see that Ohio State, despite the loss, still has an over 60% chance of making the college football playoff?
I'm wondering what their data is based on. How do they come to that conclusion?
Are they? I just, I think Ohio State's out.
So
Like
do
as
I.
long as Michigan wins, I mean, I could see a
Correct.
scenario where Michigan loses, but even then, I think if Michigan loses to Iowa State, it's like K-State from last year, or I mean TCU from last year, right when they played K-State.
Okay. Yeah.
I think that they're still in, and I don't think you can put Ohio State in. What's the other
Yeah, I mean,
signature? What's the other signature win? Ohio State. They beat Notre Dame in a last second play, and they beat Penn State. Like that's their wins. And so I don't know.
yeah, I'd be surprised unless they think that Florida State's going to lose to Louisville, right? And they see Washington beating Oregon. I don't know, man.
Well, but I think the winner of Washington
Or
Oregon's
maybe
in.
what if? Yeah, I don't know what they're seeing, man. I don't know what they're seeing. I'm curious to see what these rankings are going to look like on Tuesday. But I would be surprised if Ohio State got it. Unless there's just incredible chaos to the other teams in the conference championship games this weekend.
In what was the most exciting game of the day, which nobody predicted, including this podcast host, I thought Alabama would roll Auburn. I didn't even think it would be close. Auburn had just lost, and not lost, but got demolished by a New Mexico State team at home the week prior. There was no way this game was supposed to be close.
31-10, they lost.
Auburn is up 24 to 21?
24 to 20.
24 to 20. Fourth down from like the 30-yard line. It's in
fourth and goal, not just fourth down.
Fourth and goal from the 30. And did you
31.
see the throw Milroe makes, which we're going to break this play down a little bit here, but the throw Milroe makes and the catch that Burton makes.
Isaiah Bond.
Oh, did Bond made it, not Burton?
Yeah, it was Isaiah Bond.
All right, Bond, sorry. The catch that dude made and the throw that Milroe made, I don't know if I've ever seen anything like it, dude. I mean, he dropped that in the only place you could throw it. I don't even know.
Yeah, this is gonna hurt Auburn fan forever, right? Again, you have a chance. First year head coach and Hugh Freeze. You come out, you give a great effort against a really good Alabama team. You have them on the ropes. Remember, they got it down. Alabama got the ball down inside the 10. That's how they got first and goal. They get the bad snap, rolls back. Milroe falls on it. They got another penalty after that. So, yeah, fourth and goal from the 31. I mean, I'm thinking, what could they possibly do here? I remember the commentator was saying, okay, well, they've got 3 timeouts. Maybe they just kick the field goal and then try to get an onside kick, and yeah. I mean, they call that play. Auburn rushes 3.
Well, okay. So let's break that down a little bit. So Auburn rushes 3, but really, if you look back at the play, they rush 2, and they have a spy for Milroe. Spy on a 30-yard play.
Yes.
That doesn't even make
it makes no sense whatsoever.
So they go into what is an ultimate prevent shell. And those 2 guys really aren't rushing. Not that they're going to get through 5, but it was very odd. So 0 pressure on Milroe. He looked like he's playing a 7v7 game, right? I mean, he was just standing there in the pocket. He had all day. He could wait till it slow up. Then you look at Auburn's defense. Kevin, it was like they were playing man. I think they were playing man, and I think they double covered everybody in the middle, and they had single coverage on the outside. But Backs were turned. They couldn't really see the ball. instead of just, if you're going to play that prevent, why aren't they lining dudes up right along the goal line?
That's what you normally see in that situation. They make a little wall right there on the goal line. That way, if the ball goes up, they can drop back to break up a pass. So I'm not sure what the call was. I still don't know how that got through, though. It was an incredible play by Milroe, an incredible catch. And again, like you said, one of the most shocking endings that we've seen in a long time. And for Auburn to lose like that, like I said, that's going to hurt them for a very long time.
Do you think that this close win over a bad Auburn team is going to give any pause to the conversation that Alabama and Georgia are in if Alabama wins? Is there any significance to this game being that close?
No, I don't think so. I think if they beat Georgia, it's still going to be a conversation. At least as far as Alabama being in. That if they beat the number one team, Georgia,
they're in. Alabama's in.
I've been saying it, man. Yeah.
The SEC champion is in. That's a no-brainer. I agree with you completely on that.
Right.
I'm just wondering if it tempers that expectation, because Georgia also has a close game with Georgia Tech, 31-23. I mean, does the committee look at it and go, hey, these are rivalry games? Anything can happen in a rivalry game.
That's what I think. Because Alabama, I think they were surprised by some of the things Auburn was doing offensively. Because we didn't see that normal dominant defense that we've been seeing. There were a lot of big plays that Auburn had in that game. We got to remember, though, Hugh Freeze has beaten Nick Saban twice at Ole Miss.
I still don't know how he didn't beat him yesterday. I mean, it was just unbelievable. So
you can't lose a game when you have a team 4th and goal from the 31-yard line. There's just no way. And you saw the shock look on those Auburn fans' faces, and I completely understand it. Yeah, just trying to process what the hell just happened here.
I just don't know how you have defensive backs with their back to the quarterback in that play.
I completely agree. Yeah.
It's like you are just play zone defense. Mm-hmm. Like I'm thinking about basketball, or just play zone, like a true zone. Like 8, if you're only going to rush 3, fine. 8 should be on the goal line, and everything should be in front of you. And it was just very, very, very odd. All right. In other games, Kentucky beats Louisville 38-31. Kentucky's head coach is seemingly offered the job at A&M last night. According to all reports, it was nearly a done deal, if not a done deal. But as of this morning, the rumor is that donors were not excited about the hire and told the administration under no circumstances were they to hire Mark Stoops. The other narrative is that Mark Stoops simply turned down A&M. Number one, Kevin, which scenario is more likely? And number two, what does the entire process say about A&M as a job right now?
Well, I think number one is more likely because it's A&M, right? And when you have these huge, big money donors like they have, they want a big say in what happens with the program, right? And with them, they want the big name hire. We talked about this before. They got to get the right hire. Doesn't matter how big of a name he is, right? They got to get the right hire. So it seems like maybe he was the right hire. But for them to shut it down, it just says a lot about them. I mean, again, who knows if it was the right hire or not? But it certainly wasn't a big enough name for Aggie fans and their donors, clearly.
I don't want to spend too much time talking about him going to A&M, considering the fact that he's now not going to A&M. However, just really quickly, I think he would have been a solid hire. He's not a home run hire, and I don't know if he makes him an instant contender in the SEC. But I do believe with the talent that's there, he's shown an ability to coach and develop, which wasn't being seen under Jimbo. So I think that's probably what the admin was looking at, or the administration. But again, I guess I'm saying I understand the fan base, but I don't understand an administration that listens to the fan base. If you've got to make a decision, you make a decision. Like, just deal with it. I don't know.
And same thing with the players. I know the players. I'm hearing Mike Elko. We talked about him when the job first came available. the head coach at Duke, potentially Elijah Robinson, who was on the staff, who's been the interim head coach, and that the players want him as a head coach. Look, you know me, I'm pro player on everything, but you cannot let the players
No.
make the decision on who's going to be the head coach. These players are going to be gone in 2 years, you know? So,
Well,
again, if you want Robinson, then hire him, but it can't be because the players want him. And again, this is
everybody,
coming from somebody who's extremely pro player when it comes to most things in college football.
every player wants the interim coach. That's why the interim coach was there, because everybody liked him. You know,
Yeah.
you literally take the most likable coach on your staff and you make him the interim coach so that the whole thing doesn't fall apart. I mean, that's what you do.
Correct.
And so, but yeah, the only time, and I think it's even debatable if it's worked out at Notre Dame. You know, I think that you have an argument there. They did finish
It
9-3
remains to be
this year.
seen.
It remains to be seen. They did finish 9-3 this year. But it remains to be seen if you know that's who the players wanted. That's, you know, there was a groundswell of support. We'll find out and see. But no, listen, A&M. I think that the money has gotten to be so much everywhere that more money at A&M isn't necessarily the end all be all. Does that make sense? I don't know.
Absolutely.
What do we think Mark Stoops is making at Kentucky? You think he makes $4 million a year, $5 million a year?
I'd probably say 6, at least 6.
He probably makes 6, right? He's an SEC
It's
school.
still in the SEC, yeah.
They've got SEC money. Okay, so let's say they were going to offer him $11 million a year. Okay, that is a significant amount of money. I don't think anybody scoffs at another $5 million. But honest to God, Kevin, when you've got $6 million, what changes in your lifestyle when you go from 6 to 11 million?
Yeah. Oh, well, hold on, real quick. He's making almost $9 million a year.
Oh well, with incentives and everything.
I think his base is 9.
No, that can't be right. That
No,
can't be
I'm
right.
serious. Yeah, I'm seeing multiple. This is from when he signed it. This is on CBS Sports. Stoops will reportedly earn $9 million annually under the new deal. This is at Kentucky. He signed it in November of last year.
Okay, so take the 9 million, right? So if he's at 9 million and they're going to offer 14 million, like a significant, I mean, but like nothing in your life changes. Like your world hasn't significantly changed. It's not like going from a coordinator position to a head coach where it's like a tremendous amount of money. I mean, it's still a tremendous amount of money, but not, you know, you're already making a tremendous amount of money. So my point being is, it's not all about money. A&M, dude, listen, I think A&M is almost on par with Kentucky as a program. At least they have been for the last 15 years.
I agree. Yeah, it just seems to be an 8-win program, despite all their resources. And look, Texas, I'm not trying to talk too much crap. Texas has been one of the most underachieving programs in the country, especially over the last 14 years or so. But with A&M, they've had everything. They're in the SEC. They've had all the recruits, and they just haven't seemed to make it work at all.
It looks like we talked about this earlier. Jeff Lebby going to Mississippi State. This move makes a lot of sense in the sense that he's coached in the state of Mississippi, probably had some relationships there. Zach Selman is the athletic director at Mississippi State and did all of the background checks on Jeff Lebby and knows where he's from and what's going on there. Probably feels very comfortable with that hire. He's offensive minded. Despite the weird calls against Oklahoma State and Kansas and some others throughout the year, his offense performed at a top 10 level pretty much across the board in every category. Is Lebby ready to go to Mississippi State? And is that a good enough job for the offensive coordinator of Oklahoma to want to leave for?
It's an SEC job, right? So that always automatically gives it credibility. But it's a tough job, right? I mean, you are way down in the pecking order of teams, even in the SEC West. Now, I know you might not have those divisions, right? But if you look at the traditional SEC West, you start naming those schools. I mean, they're at the bottom.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, you got Ole Miss in your own state who has a bigger brand. LSU, Texas A&M, Alabama, Auburn. You're behind, and then, you're behind all of those schools. So it's a tough job, right? It's probably a great place to go and get some head coaching experience, It's a good first job to have to be in the SEC, but it's a tough job. We haven't seen a lot of coaches really be able to make it work. I thought Leach had done some good things there, rest in peace. And Dan Mullen did some really good things there too before he left to go to Florida. But man, I don't know. It's a tough job.
Did Dan Mullen coach Dak, didn't he? There?
He did.
That Dak? Yeah. I mean, if you get, hey, dude, sometimes if you get a quarterback, a lot of things, a lot of good things can happen. I think that's a job where you try to go 9-3 and get promoted, right? I mean, you try to go 9-3 and then get to go to Florida or wherever.
Yeah, like Dan Mullen did. He went from there to the University of Florida.
I wonder. So the rumors around Oklahoma's program was that they didn't love Jeff Lebby, that there was tension between him and the other coaches, that the Art Briles stuff was almost a final dagger, like that he was almost a dead man walking around the offices and stuff like that. I don't know if I believe that if the Mississippi State information is true. And what I mean by that is Zach Selman still has a relationship with Castiglione, right? That did not dissolve. In fact, it's probably stronger now that they're peers. And he's calling him and going, hey, was that a real deal with him? Was that a real deal with Lebby and Art Briles?
Agreed.
And so that makes me think, ergo, everything else was actually better at Oklahoma than the outside world was seeing. Because Zach Selman's not going to hire somebody who's persona non grata to Joe Castiglione. It's just, that wouldn't happen.
Yeah, I tend to agree with that. And also, here's the thing. You're not going to do yourself any favors by having Art Briles on the sideline, especially if you're not balling out, right? Those things become magnified if you have a bad game, right? Because that was after the SMU game, right? Wasn't it?
Yes.
And wasn't the best performance by him. So it just gets magnified. It's like, okay, so you call a crap game and then you have Art Briles on the sideline.
Yeah.
And again, I know it's his father-in-law, and I know it's a grandfather to his kids. However, you can't have Art Briles on the sideline of a game. He can be in the back. He can be at the game. He just can't be on the sideline.
The concern for Oklahoma fan, which I don't think is founded, but you tell me, a concern for Oklahoma fan is if Lebby leaves, does Jackson Arnold go? Do we lose recruits to Mississippi State? I think you know where I'm going to go with this, but I'm curious to get your opinion on that. Do recruits and players follow Jeff Lebby to Mississippi State?
I don't know, man. I mean, it's Mississippi State. I don't know how many people are lining up to live in Starkville, Mississippi. It's just, I don't think so. If he was going to Ole Miss, that would be a little bit different. Maybe some guys. And again, with recruits, to me, the issue would be losing recruits, period. Just having people just decommit or hit the transfer portal and going somewhere else. But I don't know if, big 4- and 5-star recruits are going to be following him to Mississippi State. I'd be a little surprised if that happened.
I mean, Mississippi State was never on anybody's list that's playing at Oklahoma at a high level. I mean, if we lose some low-level players or some backups that are looking to maybe get a little bit more playing time, that's one thing. That's going to happen anyway, right? You're going to have that transfer portal loss regardless of the situation. But like high-performing players, like Jackson Arnold is not going to Mississippi. He was not. He was recruited by Oklahoma, the Ohio State, Alabama, like
big-time schools.
Yeah, he's not going to Mississippi State. Like
I'd be stunned. I mean, absolutely stunned.
Yeah.
So I don't care how close him and Lebby are. I'd be completely shocked if he decided to transfer. Period, and then to transfer to Mississippi State.
Okay, so the likely scenario is that it's Seth Luttrell replacing him as Oklahoma as offensive coordinator. He was a former player at Oklahoma, assistant under a lot of offensive-minded coaches, Leach, Mangino. The tree is pretty. Kevin Wilson. He's well versed in kind of that tree. He was a pretty successful coach at North Texas, but he probably stayed there a couple years too long to get another job. He probably should have jumped after he had about 3 years in, which can happen sometimes at those mid majors. Like you kind of got to make your move when you're hot, because if not, then you're not going to continue to recruit.
Yeah.
So and then And potentially, so that I think he's the leader in the clubhouse, and then potentially a co-offensive coordinator with Emmett Jones, which I think is an attempt to keep Emmett Jones because he's such a good recruiter. I don't think they want to lose Emmett Jones to either Levy's staff or somewhere else. I think they want to be able to pay Emmett Jones just because he can recruit. So I
Right.
think
You've got an ace recruiter. You got to pay him. I don't know what his salary is, but if you can bump it up to $1 million, you got to do it. Texas is paying Jeff Banks $1 million a year.
just to
The
recruit.
special team coach. He's a really good special teams coach, but he is an ace recruiter, and that's why he's making $1 million a year.
Yeah,
And
100%.
if you have to do it, you do it.
So the other topic is that there's the rumors seem to be split that John Finley will stay or go to Mississippi State. If he goes to Mississippi State, he could potentially be the offensive coordinator. So that's another name to keep an eye on. I'll tell you this. I wanted to ask you a question on this one. Is Cale Gundy a viable candidate to come back as offensive coordinator? Has he, in effect, served his 2-year punishment? Can he return to the fold? Because he did a heck of a job as offensive coordinator in the Alamo Bowl the 1 year as a play caller. And then number 2, he's been a great recruiter for years and years and years and years. Or is that a non-starter?
Well, what are the optics here, right? Like, are people going to be, what's going to be the public opinion? Is there going to be outrage about it? Or do you think people are going to be like, if he comes out and has a press conference and apologizes and
I think there was an outrage that he was fired.
Yeah.
I don't think there was an outrage about what he did. I don't think anybody ever said, everybody said, well, that was stupid.
Yeah.
But nobody was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe he said that.
And then the timing of it, it was really stupid what he said, right?
Stupid. It was stupid.
You
Yes,
can't, and I think if he would have said that at the beginning of this season, he might have had, maybe been suspended for a little bit, publicly reprimanded or something like that. But it was when it was, before you got a brand new coach coming in who kind of has to lay down the law. So I understand why Venables did what he did. So, I mean, personally, I wouldn't be upset about it. I think it's going to be what the one of the players will think about it, right? Because in this case, I just said you don't make coaching hires based on players, but in this case, the players he's coaching, if they have any kind of thoughts of him being potentially a racist, it's going to be hard to get guys to play for you, and it's going to be hard to get high school recruits to come there. And you better believe that your opponents are going to be using that against him in recruiting if that's the case.
Well, yeah. From a negative recruiting standpoint, that would make it tough. But to your point, he comes out with a mea culpa. Everybody surrounds him. Everybody, praises him. I don't know. I just think it's something to keep an eye on. I don't think he's coming back.
Here's the thing: when you're Oklahoma, you look at who are the best offensive coordinators in the country. I don't care where they're at right now. Now, maybe he doesn't want to mess up potential chemistry that's happening with the staff, but I feel like you guys can get almost anybody to come and be your OC. It's a great job.
I agree, but it doesn't seem like there's the hot OC out there that there has been in years past.
There's no Lincoln Riley.
I feel like there's no Jeff Levy, who was a hot OC at just guaranteed hot hires. It feels like all the hot offensive coordinators have been promoted in the last 2 years, and they're all head coaches.
Some guys are going to get fired, right? Yeah. There's going to be a guy who was an offensive coordinator that got promoted. It didn't work out as a head coach. They're going to get fired. Hey, come run an offense until you get your next head coaching job. So you've got.
I am fine with Luttrell being Luttrell being the offensive coordinator as long as we pay Emmett Jones. Like we have to pay Emmett Jones. And
I don't know who he specifically has recruited from your current class, but I know he's an ace recruiter. He's been for a long time. Everybody seems to like him, well respected in Texas high schools with those coaches. So you got to keep him around.
Other notes on the coaching carousel before we start talking about that Texas game. We can talk a little bit about the game, more about, I think, going forward into the Big 12, just because the game was a couple days ago now. Jonathan Smith, former head coach at Oregon State, taking the Michigan State job. part of me wonders how much of this is just the uncertainty with Oregon State and where they're going to
Right.
play and what's going on. I feel so bad for the players, for everybody. I think he's got to do this. I don't necessarily think he's making a bad decision, but Michigan State's not a great job. I mean, he kind
It's
of
not a great. It's a good job though. I mean, they have been in the college football playoff.
Yeah,
You
you're
gotta
right.
remember
You're
that,
right.
right? So they can always challenge right now. Right now, Michigan and Ohio State are just rolling.
Yeah.
Right. I think when Michigan was down before Harbaugh really got it going, they were up there with Ohio State and contending for that conference almost every year under Mark Antonio. But we'll see, man. He did a really good job building that program at Oregon State. He recruited well. They got some really good players. The teams are physical and tough. And when you step on the field against Oregon State, you're going to be in for a fight. You can ask USC, you can ask Oregon, you can ask Washington.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, I know Oregon really got the best of them, but this is a special Oregon team. So,
So that's so now you have an opening at Oregon State. Looks like Michigan State, Indiana's fired their coach, which I don't even know who their coach was, but I do know he got paid $20.8 million in a buyout, which is just insane. The buyout thing has to stop.
it's out of control.
It just doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense to me. Like, why can't we just set the market to say, hey, and I've said this before, but I'm going to say it right now. We'll pay you out the butt. We're going to pay you $15, $18 million a year to be our coach. But you know what? Your buyout, it's $1 million. Like, stop.
Correct.
Like,
yeah.
stop.
Exactly. We'll
Like,
give you even 1 year salary.
Yeah.
Right? Like if you make $8 million a year, all right, here's $8 million for your trouble.
Yeah, you're going to break a
You
lease
get
or
settled
something.
for a year. Correct.
But
It's unbelievable, man.
I don't understand these schools that want to keep doing it. And I know it's to be competitive, but look around. It hasn't worked. Like it has not worked. You got so many coaches that just either break it and go to another school or whatever. It doesn't keep any of that from happening, and you end up paying the buyout when they suck, i.e., the random coach at Indiana, Jimbo Fisher, stuff like that. It's crazy. The other rumor I saw was Holgorsen potentially out at Houston. Have you seen
I've
that?
heard the same thing. I don't know if it's 100% confirmed, but yeah, it looks like they're gonna get rid of him. And remember, he left West Virginia to be the head coach at Houston before they were even in the Big 12. Right? He left a good job.
Wasn't that weird when he did that?
Yeah, and he said he was just so excited about the amount of recruits there in the city of Houston, which makes sense. But man, he never got that thing going. And we've seen other coaches do it before. We've seen Sumlin do it. We've seen Art Briles do it.
Herman was there, right?
Yeah, we had Tom Herman too. The 2 years he was there. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that's interesting. That's what I've got on the list. This is going to change quite a bit over the next week. Different coaches moving. It's still obviously the A&M job still opened up. So there's going to be a lot there. Levy is not confirmed as of 12:37 p.m. on Sunday is when we're recording this. So if you're listening to this and you're like, well, Levy ended up not taking, okay, we got you. But this is a pretty heavy rumor right now. Seems pretty real. But again, not confirmed. All right. University of Texas, you destroyed Texas Tech. I thought the best thing I saw at your game was in the post game when the game is over and your big board displayed Brett Yormark's speech to Texas Tech.
It was glorious, man.
Was that the most satisfying moment you've ever had as a Texas Longhorn fan?
Not quite, but it's up there. Vince Young running through the end zone on 4th and 5 from the 8. I'll put that a little bit over that, but it was close, man. It's one of the best moments we've had in a while. I told you, man, I think our team was ready to go, and clearly they were. They heard those words from Yormark and from Joey McGuire saying that, that we're good at Olympic sports. And, yeah, man, you got beat down by 50.
Yeah.
50.
No, I know. It's the most complete performance. I mean, we have waited for a performance by Texas like this all year long. It is what's kept fans like me, college football fans like me from saying Texas is, a really, really good team because, dude, you struggle against Houston. You struggled against Wyoming even. You didn't look great against TCU. Rice. TCU, it was 26-23. Iowa State, you start to see a little more pep in the step, but, not just dominant, but a little more. this was dominant. This was like you don't even want
Correct.
to.
I
It,
mean, first of all, man, you look at the rushing yards. We had 302 yards rushing without Jonathan Brooks.
how much did
And
okay? So Jaden Blue ran for 121. Who ran for the rest? That's another 180
all right, well,
yards.
Savion Red had 72 yards.
Jeez Louise.
Trey Wisner, who's a true freshman, who's probably fifth on the depth chart, ran for 60. Baxter ran for 45 before he got injured. Keelan Robinson had 10, and then Arch Manning had 7.
Kevin, will you tell the Boomer Bevo fans why Arch Manning got in the game ahead of Malik Murphy? That was a weird.
Yes,
That was a weird turn of events.
I thought it was, first of all, it was great to see him finally get a chance to come into a game, right? Because we've said this, the plan was to play him at least to play him in enough games to where he could still keep his red shirt. But since we were incapable of blowing anybody out throughout most of the season, it just hadn't happened yet. Well, obviously we're up big on Texas Tech, so you think we see Malik Murphy for a little bit, then we see Arch, but then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, Arch is in the game. After the game, reported it, asked Sark why Arch came in instead of Malik Murphy, and it turns out that the third quarter, the opening kickoff to the third quarter, which Keelan Robinson returned for a touchdown, on that play, 2 of our special team guys were blocking a Texas Tech player and shoved him out of bounds, and he ran into Malik Murphy and he injured his non-thrown shoulder. He had to go to the locker room. That's why we saw Arch Manning out there instead of Malik Murphy.
Any word on Malik Murphy? Is he good to go for the Big 12
I haven't
championship?
heard anything yet on him. This was after the game Friday. I'm sure we'll probably know more on Monday when Sark has his weekly press conference.
To get into the weeds a little bit, does DKR have particularly tight sidelines? I know OU's sidelines are
No,
always kind of talked about being tight.
no, it's not. In OSU, I think they have the tightest sidelines in the country.
Well, I know they got the worst corner. The corners of their end
Yeah.
zones are just god awful.
The whole thing. I mean,
yeah.
there's no space. The bench, it's like maybe 2 feet. It looks like between the bench and the actual wall. It's crazy. But no, plenty of room in DKR. I think he might have just been standing in the wrong spot.
Yeah.
Who knows? Maybe I don't think they're going to have him come in to start the third quarter. We were up, not by that much. So I don't know. Maybe he's just right there, just right where the offense stands, and wrong place, wrong time. Clearly.
I'm looking up here your odds. It's y'all are 12.5-point favorites as of this morning. Oregon, by the way, is a 9-point favorite. That's a big spread to go against a 12-0
massive
team.
Spread.
I mean, y'all at 12.5 makes sense. You're 11-1, and you're playing a team that's 9-3 with one of the losses to South Alabama. So, to me, I think the spread is appropriate. Not that Oklahoma State can't win the game. Ollie Gordon goes off. There's a lot of things that can happen, but I think the spread is probably correct. It makes you think about it. 9 against Washington on a neutral field. That's there.
Yeah, that's
Vegas
what
is.
They think of both teams.
Yeah, Vegas is thinking what we're thinking. Bo Nix is balling out and Washington's hanging on. But anyway, back to the 12.5 spread. So you got the 12.5-point spread. What is your early week feel on this game? And what do you have to do in this game to secure a playoff spot? Do you have to roll Oklahoma State, or do you just have to win the game?
No, I think to get into the playoff, I think you need to put up some style points, kind of like what we saw last Friday against Texas Tech. We need to really go out there and dominate this game. I think we need to keep Ollie Gordon from going off. He's going to have some yards because he's just that good. Same thing with the Texas Tech running back, Taj Brooks. But we got to contain him as much as we can, and we got to put up big plays in the running game and in the passing game and make plays on defense and dominate on special teams. I need a very similar performance to what we saw this week is if we're trying to get into the playoff.
Okay. So there are 5 teams. There are 4 teams that are undefeated. Georgia, Michigan, Washington, Florida State. Okay?
Yeah.
I really still believe that the winner of Bama, Georgia gets in. Obviously, I don't have to believe that.
Yeah,
that's a fact. The winner of Washington, Oregon gets in. I just believe I don't see a scenario where they don't. If Florida State beats Louisville and is undefeated, you can't leave them
Yeah.
out regardless of their quarterback situation.
Agreed.
So I don't know how Texas doesn't get in if they win. Ohio State has one loss. You're not going to jump Ohio State. You can't jump Ohio State. They've got one loss. They didn't win their conference. And Texas's only loss is to Oklahoma on the road with a win against Alabama and Tuscaloosa. Again, I just keep coming back to it. I know that we're trying to make it a storyline where Texas is going to be left out. I just don't think that's the case, Kevin. Give me a scenario where Texas wins and doesn't get in.
Well, I mean, you have Michigan, right? And Georgia beats Alabama.
Okay, Georgia beats Alabama. Georgia's in. Bama's out.
Or yeah. Washington beats Oregon.
So Texas is in this situation. Texas is in because Bama has 2 losses. Oregon has 2 losses.
No, but I'm saying but you'll have Georgia, you'll have Michigan. All right. If Washington wins, they're in. And if Florida State's beat Louisville, they're
in. Okay, Georgia's in.
Mm-hmm.
Washington, Florida State, and Michigan.
Correct.
Oh God, yeah, shit, I forgot.
Yeah, those are 4 undefeated teams. Texas. I mean, in order for Texas to get in my opinion.
I'm sorry, I went brain dead for a minute. I thought they were playing each other. You're absolutely right. Yeah.
We just need Florida State has to lose basically, because the committee has already said that they like Oregon more, even though I still feel that Texas has a better resume than Oregon. Now, again, if they beat Washington, that's different. But yeah,
I think it all comes down to Florida State.
Yeah, Florida State has to lose. And I'll be honest, I don't see that happening. I've already prepared myself.
Even with a backup quarterback, neutral field.
Yeah, man. I mean, we'll see. I mean, Louisville, they did not look good against
Kentucky.
I know it's a rivalry game, but they were at home, right? You would think a team that with 1 loss all season would play a little bit better than what we saw. 3 turnovers. Again, against a team with a head coach that has seemingly taken the A&M job, right? I don't think all that happened after the game. Do you?
No, he was out.
Correct. And it's still, usually
5.5 point line to Florida State. Florida State's a 5.5 point favorite. Michigan's a 23-point favorite.
They've just got dudes all over the field, right? Even despite the quarterback, Trey Benson looked really.
Their running back is fantastic.
And and then their pass rush. Jared Verse. I've been talking about him for 2 years on this podcast. He was great against Florida too. So I don't see it happen. I've already accepted it.
Okay.
But,
so Georgia, Washington, Florida State, and Michigan all win. They're all undefeated, which has never happened in the college football playoff. You've never had 4 undefeated teams.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Oklahoma was never undefeated, and that's 3 of the years right there, or 4 of the years.
Yeah.
I don't know that Ohio State was ever undefeated going in. They always tended to lose at least 1 game. People are talking about Ohio State getting in. I don't think they get in. I think there has to be a lot of chaos to happen for Ohio State, and I'm not even sure that the chaos helps. Texas would have to lose to Oklahoma State. Michigan would have to lose. I think both of those things would have to happen for Ohio State to get in. And I'm still not sure. I think Michigan's in regardless. I think Michigan is in because they will be the winner. They would have beat Ohio State.
Yeah. I agree.
Oh man, it's going to be fun. It's a great slate of games. It really is a good.
It's going to be fun. It's all. Starting Friday night, right? We got Washington and Oregon, so we'll know.
I'm so bummed Oklahoma couldn't make it again. Not mad at BYU. I don't really care about BYU. I'm just mad that Oklahoma couldn't slide in there. I think one more OU Texas for the conference championship would have been
great.
It would have been amazing. And I think that the hype for the game would have been so much bigger than it is for a Texas Oklahoma State game. I think you would have had real national hype, which I think would have helped. And now that we're in where we're at, I think that helps Texas, right? If Texas was to beat Oklahoma, beat everybody on their schedule, all of a sudden they're making a case to Florida State that says, hey, hold on there, Tiger. We're pretty good. So it's going to be really, really, really fascinating. Um,
Yeah.
Hey, real quick, I wanted to read you these stat lines. Okay.
Sure.
One of these stat lines is Caleb Williams, who we think is probably, despite losses, maybe the best quarterback in college football. One of these is Dylan Gabriel. Okay. You ready for this?
Let's do it.
Caleb Williams, 266 completions against 388 attempts, 68.6% completion, 3,633 yards, 30 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, and a quarterback rating of 170.15. Dylan Gabriel, 266 for 384, completion percentage 69.3%, 3,660 yards, 30 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, and a quarterback rating of 171.98. If I would have told you beginning of the season that Dylan Gabriel would have better stats than Caleb Williams minus 1 interception, would you have ever believed me?
Probably not.
That's
No.
fascinating. That's a
We know
fascinating
Dylan
stat.
Gabriel can put up stats, right? We've seen that for 4 years now, but yeah, when comparing them to Caleb Williams, yeah, would not have thought that.
Yeah, I mean, look, dude, and Caleb Williams had a big jump on him because DG was not putting these stats up early in the year. I mean, he had some good games. He was very efficient early in the year, but he wasn't putting up monster yardage and everything. So he's really balled out in the last 3 games, which has been fun to see. It's just a shame. It's a shame that DG doesn't get to play for the Big 12. I continue to be really, really frustrated about it. But yeah, what are you going to do?
I agree, man. Yeah, he's had a great season. He's had a really good career for you guys. And I just wonder where you guys would be if he would not have decided to come to OU as opposed to going to UCLA, where he was already pretty much signed.
I bet you know what? I think he's a good player. I think he would have been really good at UCLA. I really do.
Me too. I just wonder where OU would be. Where would
dude,
OU
I don't
be?
even know. Who knows? Do we get
Who would
Jackson
have been the
Dart? Maybe.
quarterback last year?
Do we get Jackson Dart? Maybe though.
Maybe.
Maybe you get Jackson Dart. Dart, would have played with under Levy. That could have worked out.
Yeah.
Jackson Dart's a good quarterback in Mississippi. I think that would have probably been the most likely thing. All right. So Oklahoma's regular season is done. As far as their prospects for bowl games, I think a lot of it depends on if Texas wins. If Texas wins, I think Oklahoma can get a New Year's Six bowl.
Okay.
Because they're 10-2. They will, look like the third best team in the Big 12 or the second best team in the Big 12. Just, even with Oklahoma State.
Despite being technically third.
Yeah, they'll be technically third, but at 10-2 and it's Oklahoma, it just has a more favorable than a 9-4. Oklahoma State 9-4. Yeah, they're 9-4, right?
9-4.
They'll be 9-4.
If they lose, yeah, they'll be 9-4.
So Oklahoma at 10-2 versus Oklahoma State at 9-4. They're going to take the Oklahoma team. I think now that means I think they could probably get a really crappy game like against Tulane or something. But maybe they could also bounce up into a pretty decent game against one of these schools that are going to be left out. Ohio State, Oregon, something like that. I worry about.
I'm just wondering though, how it's going to work if Texas doesn't get into the playoff. Will you guys still get into a New Year's Six?
Well, that's a great question. I don't think so, right?
I wouldn't think so, but because you're going to have a lot of good teams that are out, right?
I mean,
you can have Bama, you can have Texas, you could have Washington.
Okay, so the New Year's Six is 12 teams. 4 of those are in the playoff, right? So you have to have you have to have the remaining 8 teams. So you got to be in the top 12, except that Tulane or somebody's going to get in there. That's the frustrating part for the big boys. It always continues to be. So Tulane will eliminate one of those spots. Or do they have to be in the top 16 to get in?
I'm not sure, but it looks like I'm just looking at some bowl.
Yeah, give us something. Give us something real quick.
This is on CBS Sports. Okay, so they have in the playoff, their projection is number 1 Georgia against Oregon and the Sugar Bowl.
Okay.
And then the Rose Bowl will host Michigan at 2 against Florida State, number 3.
Wow.
Okay.
Okay. So
And
what's
then
that? What's that do to Texas?
it has Texas in the Fiesta Bowl actually against Tulane,
Oh,
which we talked about. It's kind of a no-win situation there,
listen,
right?
as an Oklahoma fan, I would just be giggling all the way. Like that would just
Yeah.
be the. I mean, you finally get a run. You finally win a Big 12 championship. You finally get to where you've been trying to get to for 12 years, 13 years, and you get rewarded with a game against Tulane. I
Yeah, I
mean,
know. It's funny how that works, right?
what a kick in the
And I don't
footballs.
know if
That would
we've
be
had how many times we've had a one-loss conference champion that hasn't gotten to the playoff. It's just one of those weird
well, the
years,
Big
man.
12's never had one.
Yeah.
Well, no, I take it back. Was TCU? Was the TCU and
Oh,
Baylor?
was that with back in was it 2014 or whatever?
Yeah, they only had one loss,
Yeah, yeah,
and they got jumped by Ohio State. But dude, TCU's not
2014.
Texas. TCU's not Texas.
Yeah.
You're still Texas. I don't know, man.
Completely.
It's gonna.
And
But if they're all undefeated, it's gonna be hard to
let me
argue
go through
against
the
that.
rest of these. They've got the Orange Bowl, Louisville against Ohio State in the Orange Bowl, and then they've got the Peach Bowl, Missouri against Penn State, and in the Cotton Bowl, they've got Alabama against Washington.
Let me ask you, how about that Penn State matchup? Could you see an Oklahoma sliding into the Penn State game instead
Instead of who? Missouri?
of Penn State?
Oh, so playing against Missouri?
Yeah,
I mean, maybe. Yeah, they've got 2 losses.
they've got 2 losses.
Right.
Oklahoma has 2
Yeah.
losses.
Yeah, exactly.
Is
Penn State
is
will be
Penn?
a draw just like y'all will, though. But yeah,
What
I mean,
about
I think
maybe? What about in place of Missouri? Is Missouri has 2 losses.
yeah, they do.
I'm not saying
Yeah,
Oklahoma's. I'm really not
should.
making the
Yeah,
case right. I'm not making the case that Oklahoma's more deserving. I haven't looked at their resumes to be accurate about that. We did have losses against Oklahoma State and Kansas, so I'm not making that. I'm just thinking about in terms of eyeballs. Um, I don't know. I think Oklahoma's right on the border. So if Oklahoma, does that bowl prediction go a little bit further down? Does that bounce us all the way down to the Alamo Bowl?
this one just has New Year's 6, but I would imagine because it's an Alamo Bowl, the next highest one um
Yeah, it used to
for the
always
Big
be the
12.
it used to be the Cotton Bowl until the Cotton Bowl gained,
Yeah, the
New Year's Six eligibility.
Yeah. Listen, I'm looking at Bleacher Report here. Now they have theirs a little bit different. They have Texas in the Fiesta Bowl against Missouri. They've got Ole Miss and Tulane for the Peach Bowl, Florida State and Ohio State in the Orange Bowl, which means they think Florida State's going to lose and get left out of the playoffs. They've got Georgia and Washington in the Rose Bowl, and they've got Michigan and Oregon in the Sugar Bowl in the playoff.
Oh no, that wouldn't work. That's not happening.
They've got Washington and Oregon getting in.
That's not happening. That's not happening. That
would be so interesting.
It's just not. The winner of that game's in, the loser's out. The loser's probably going to the Alamo Bowl against Oklahoma. That's just not.
Can you imagine that? Man,
I would rather play Washington right now. I don't want to play Oregon.
yeah.
Okay, so we got bowl.
Washington offense is explosive though when they're at their best.
So we've got ball. So those are the potential bowl game landing spots for Oklahoma. Last players that will not play in the bowl game. Dylan Gabriel not playing the bowl game.
Now it depends on what the bowl game is. If you're in the Alamo Bowl, maybe he doesn't play. But I don't know what he has to gain from sitting out. To me, you should only sit out if you're going to be if you're a projected first round pick. That's in my opinion, first or second round pick.
Okay, you're saying if we are able to get into a New Year's Six bowl, you would expect Dylan Gabriel to play?
Yes, I do. I would.
Okay.
I would expect him to play.
Billy Bowman, Danny Stutzman, you expect them to play?
And a New Year's Six, I think Stutzman will play. I'm not sure about Bowman.
Is Bowman gone? In your mind, is Bowman gone?
Like he's made some huge plays. He's got everything you want at the safety position. He's been a good tackler. And again, he's a knack for making a big play. I don't see how he stays.
Last week, I made the offhanded comment to you that he was just a pretty good safety. And you were like, John, he's a little bit better than pretty good. And I don't know why I said that. He is fantastic. He is one of the best players at that position that Oklahoma has had since Bob Stoops has been here. He is so dynamic. The number of busts and everything have just been non-existent with him back there. I mean, there's been some, but he's always in the right place making tackles. He's a turnover machine. He's a leader on the field. He's so athletic. I really was bummed that I even opened my mouth with such a stupid statement. So I want to apologize to all the Oklahoma fans if you're still listening that I even uttered those words. He is fantastic. And when you think, okay, so do you want to say he played free safety or just a safety?
Actually, I think technically plays strong safety in your scheme, but he's all over the place, man.
Okay, but Roy Williams didn't play strong safety, right? Roy Williams was more in the cheetah. He was in the cheetah, wasn't he?
Yeah, he's more of the cheetah. He was considered a strong safety, but the defenses have changed since then. But yeah,
Roy Williams was better than Billy Bowman.
Correct.
What about Everidge? Nick Everidge. You remember Nick Everidge? Played hurt
all the time. You mean Brandon Everidge?
Yeah, Brandon Everidge.
First of all, rest in peace to Brandon Everidge.
Yeah.
But yes. No, I think I would take Bowman over Everidge.
Oh, I forgot he passed away. Yeah, I think I do too. Nick Harris played linebacker, and
he was good. Yeah,
a little bit of safety.
Like a hybrid too.
Tony Jefferson that's in the league.
No, that one's close. That one's close. Because Jefferson was a really good player for you guys, and he's been a really good NFL player too. So
Bowman's more athletic than Tony Jefferson, though, right?
Yeah, correct. Yeah, I mean, Bowman will probably run a 4.3 at the combine.
Okay, real quick.
Nice.
Side note, we haven't talked a lot about the game. It doesn't matter. I don't necessarily – the season's over. However, what in the world is Gavin Freeman doing returning punts? Get Billy Bowman back there. What are we doing, dude?
He's going to cost you guys a game with his decision-making back there. Yeah, it's right.
It's a nice story. It's a nice story.
But yeah, his decision making back there, it's going to cost you a game at some point. For you guys, for your sake, I'm glad it didn't this year. But we've seen several times him muffing punts, dropping punts, not calling fair catch when he should.
I really hope I'm wrong with this take. I hope what I'm about to say proves to be unfounded. Okay. But they are trying to turn him into the next Drake Stoops, and he is not the next Drake Stoops. He's just not.
Well, I'll say this, though, about Drake Stoops. To me, Drake Stoops, he's had flashes, but this year, the first year, he's really been good. Really good this year. I mean, he didn't even get over 1,000 career yards receiving until this year.
No, I don't disagree, but I'm still saying that's what they see the potential of this kid.
You don't think at any point he can develop into that?
Do I think Gavin Freeman is going to lead the Big 12 in receptions? No, I don't.
He won't be playing in the Big 12 anymore. So, he's not as big. Drake Stoops has better size too, right? I mean, no one's mistaking Drake Stoops for Jaden Gibson or anything. But
Drake Stoops has 78 receptions. The only two players is Baker from UCF and Xavier Worthy with more yards. He's got 10 receiving touchdowns. Nobody's even close. Nick Anderson. Well, Nick Anderson has 9 and A.D. Mitchell has 9. So I take that, but they're down on the list. So A.D. Mitchell, Nick Anderson with 9. But we're talking 78 receptions, 880 yards, 73 yards of reception a game, 10 receiving touchdowns, a 60-yard long, and 3 games over 100 plus yards.
Yeah, he's had a great season.
I'm saying Gavin Freeman is not even anywhere in that.
You can never be that. You don't make it ever be that. Yeah.
No.
Petaway, he's more of like a gadget. I don't say gadget player, but he's a guy you run jet sweeps with.
Yeah, that's the problem, Kevin. That's exactly the problem. Is they ran too many jet sweeps with him. He's terrible at that too. Look, he's a fine player. He's a fine player in the non-conference. He really is.
He shouldn't be. Yeah, I mean, he shouldn't be a big time. Yeah, he shouldn't be one of your top 3 or 4 receivers.
No, dude. When you got Brennan Thompson, who can absolutely take the. I mean, look, the starting receivers, right, are Jaden Gibson, Nick Harris, and Brennan Thompson.
Next year,
maybe Petaway.
But I don't know, man. I don't know what happened with Petaway. Didn't see him much in the second half of the season at all.
I liked him.
But I like him. I like his upside more than Thompson. Yeah, if you're looking for a potential, I know you cannot teach that kind of speed. That's why Texas was excited when we had him. But as just
all All he does is go in and make a catch. Like, that's all he does. They put him in for one play a game. He goes and makes a 60-yard catch every single time.
Yeah.
It's
I
like,
don't think he knows how to run routes yet. That, you know what I mean? So eventually you can't do that every play, but you can do it every so often. Petaway is a guy who I think, if you're looking for someone to play that slot position and to be that kind of crafty route runner, I think Petaway can be that guy. I absolutely think he can.
well, and then you've got Bunkley Shelton out there who got a little playing time early. I think he's going to be a factor.
Does he still have eligibility?
Yeah, I think Bunkley Shelton does.
Does
yeah.
he? Okay, I just know.
What about Andrew? What about Andrew Anthony? Does he have? Will he be back?
I don't know.
How much time did he have? How much time did he have at Michigan?
I'm not sure. Shelton was class of 2020, coming out of high school, so
yeah,
Andrew probably does have more.
Andrew Anthony's only 21, so he was at Michigan in 21 and 22, and OU in 23. So yeah, he's got. I bet, dude, it provided he can recover from that injury. I'm forgetting Andrew Anthony, dude. Andrew Anthony, Gibson, and Harris. No, not Harris. Anderson. Man, oh man, that's starting to look like Texas's receiving core looked like coming into the year.
Yeah,
with the star power.
Yeah, and then with Jackson Arnold throwing in the ball, man, it's exciting prospects for the defense. It's got to find who's going to be calling those plays.
Real quick, Kevin, just a quick update on the NFL. Your Cowboys destroyed. I don't even know who they play on Thanksgiving. It didn't matter. Yeah, that's right. The Commanders. It wasn't even close. You know who I feel bad for though is the Detroit Lions. Like, they are so good this year. Okay, one of the best teams in the NFL. They're going to lead their division. They're going to make the playoffs. All of this is great, and they still can't win on Thanksgiving Day. Like, they just can't do it.
What a great platform to show the whole country how good of a team you are. And you
against the Packers, who are terrible. The Packers are terrible.
They're not good at all.
So anyway, I felt bad for them. Baker plays today. I don't even know who Baker plays. I need to get caught up with my NFL. I was so caught up in college this weekend that I don't even know what's going on in the NFL.
Well, you couldn't turn away from any of these games that we have this weekend.
And really quick, a big win by Oklahoma basketball against USC on Saturday. I don't know all the names of the players yet because it's not basketball season in my mind until after football season's done. However, I will say our dudes are way stronger, way taller, way faster, way more athletic than they were last year. Our team was unathletic last year. Let's just face it. I mean, we were rolling guys out like the Groves brothers and stuff like that. Like, that was not an athletic. The guys we've got this year, dude, oh my gosh. They look big, strong, fast. They're competing at really, really high level. I hope I'm not going to be teased like I am every year with Oklahoma in the preseason before they hit conference play. But at least from an athlete standpoint, it's going to be hard to out-athlete us once you get past Kansas, Texas, and I don't know, maybe Tech. I think we're going to be really, really good this year.
Well, I'm looking forward to a good season. All right, Texas was really good last year, made the Elite Eight. I don't know if they're going to be that good again this year. But it should be fun, man. The Big 12 always delivers, and we'll see what kind of impact we can make on our last year there.
Kevin, this has been a pretty good show. Congratulations again on the Texas Longhorns making it to the Big 12 championship game. And honestly, I'm going to take some congratulations for OU getting a 10-win season. That's a pretty good accomplishment coming from 6-7. Need to be happy with the progress of the team. Pretty excited. Dude, have a great afternoon watching some NFL games. Boomer!
Hook 'em.